hear women complain, and rightly they say, yeah, he says he loves me. I just wish he'd take the garbage out once in a while, okay? And so to talk about love is easy. To do it is another thing. To talk about story is easy. To do it is another thing. Today, I hate to sound like a curmudgeon all the time, but that when you go to a good film, it feels great. I mean, films are so bad now that when you get to what is perhaps a good film, it feels great. You know what I mean? I mean, I went to see, what was it, The Bourne Identity, okay? And I came out going, wow, all right, you know, good film that worked, right? But then I thought, but it's not Parallax View. It's not even 3 Days of the Condor. It's, you know, it's a good spy film, and it's good, but it's not great. You know, it's not The Spy Who Came In From the Cold. From Aristotle on, the terminology changes. But when you see through the terminology, you see that they're all describing the same thing. They're all looking at stories which have, we now call an inciting incident. They have progressive complications. They have a crisis, climax, resolution. They have levels of conflict, inner conflict, personal conflict, extrapersonal conflict. They have patterns of design. They can go in a more or less straight chronological line, or they can spread out and multiply and divide and counterpoint and play with each other. I mean, but that the essential form is the same throughout time and throughout all cultures, and all of the people writing about writing or writers describing the process, I realized that at the heart of it, they're all just talking about something that is remarkably simple, inordinately complex when you go to execute it, almost impossibly difficult to do beautifully, but it's not that complex, it's simple. But it has the potential, like DNA, it has the potential to ramify into uncountable variations of itself. The term story design simply means the realization that a work of art is not an accident. Okay, things come to us improvisationally, spontaneously. We have a dream one night that spurs us to want to write. Fine. But as we dig into these characters and their lives, you have to understand that this is a work of art, and it's going to be shaped, formed into a design, to a vehicle, to become a beautiful, seamless vehicle to express a truth that you passionately believe in. Therefore, you have to understand what to include, what to exclude, what to put before and after what is relevant, what's irrelevant, what's repetitious, and eliminate all of that which is unnecessary, and shape that which is essential into a beautiful design. That when the audience looks at it, looks like you just tossed it off some afternoon. When the work comes from the finest aspects of you as a human being, as an artist, the meaning that you discover in your work, more often than not, will shock you. I mean, you think you're a nice, warm, compassionate, loving person till you find yourself writing these very dark, nasty, cynical tales. You think you're a smart, streetwise guy who's been around the corner a few times, until you find yourself writing these warm, compassionate stories. I mean, you think you know who you are, but often you don't, until when you write, you discover what's really percolating inside of yourself and wants expression. There must be, ideally within the protagonist of a story, it could be any number of characters, but at least the protagonist, there must be a humanity that the audience recognizes this character is a human being like me. Obviously not in every way like me, but almost not at all like me, except in this aspect. That's a human being like me. Therefore, I want that character to have whatever the character wants. Because if I were that character in those circumstances, I would want it for myself. What we're trying to create is empathy, a sense of shared humanity between ourselves and other characters, particularly the protagonist, so that the audience's emotions flow into the inner life of the story. Because if they cannot find that positive core of humanity, they will sit outside totally bored, right, feeling nothing. But the center of good does not mean good in any moralizing Pollyanna notion. It simply means a core of humanity that the audience recognizes as like theirs. And so a film like The Godfather, where you have a universe of criminals, has a center of good, which is the loyalty within the Godfather's family, right? That family loyalty draws empathy from the audience, and they find themselves identifying with gangsters. And so there just must be this humanity. And you would think that this should not be difficult, okay? Right? The character is a human being. The audience is full of human beings. You expose the humanity of the audience of the character rather, for the audience. The audience recognizes that, and they go into empathy. But it's appalling how many very well-made films with wonderful actors and in every other way fine writing and producing and directing that just do not draw empathy. I want complexity. I want American beauty. I want characters in simple, relatively beautifully told stories, relatively simple, small cast, whatever, with layers of complexity. That fascinates me as a favorite form of mine. But you know, A Beautiful Mind, for example, is another, you know, nicely layered film, beautifully layered film, but relatively simple, geniusly told. But young writers, I mean, complexity, you see, takes maturity. It takes a little wisdom to be able to see the layers of life, and as a writer, to be able to articulate a story and so beautifully told in such a way that the audience is aware of all of these complex levels. That takes a lot of experience and maturity. So the young opt for the puzzle. Puzzles are easy to do, and so they will write complicated but not complex.